And again, answering are the Eagles.
Gatto now, 4-3. That's 2 in a row for the freshman. The steal, the spin, behind the back, splitting the double team. Elliott! Oh! Ryan Thomas with a jam. Back with authority for his first points of the night. That could be an SC top 10.
What's going on, guys? I'm Elliott, joined by Russell. This is Screech Report. Just wrapped up the Hilton Garden Inn FGCU Classic at Alico Arena. We had technically 4 games. They included Florida Tech, North Dakota, Campbell, and Georgia Southern. Like I said, we just got back from the game tonight, the last game against Georgia Southern. Not a whole lot to talk about unless you want to go on a 45-minute rant on what we need to improve on. But yeah,
all been said.
Yeah, FGCU drops this final game to Georgia Southern, 72-57. It's another game with turnovers, turnover ridden. We had 21. They outscored us by 20 in the second half. It's not like we shot terribly, but still not where we need to be. I guess let's just go into some thoughts and reactions. Russell?
Yeah, man. It's, the game we saw today was Georgia Southern, and it was, the whole tournament was kind of weird. It seemed like the easiest team to beat per se was going to be North Dakota. Georgia Southern was sort of the clear quote unquote, best team, and Campbell was somewhere in the middle along with us potentially. But man, that kind of all got turned on its head early on. North Dakota ended up being the best team, at least record-wise, in this tournament. I believe they went 3-0. I could be mistaken. I
think they lost to Campbell.
They lost to Campbell. I know they beat
Georgia
us,
Southern.
I know they beat Georgia Southern.
Let me double check.
Okay, but I do know that Georgia Southern beat Campbell though, and they obviously beat us. But regardless, it's nobody really knew what to expect, but it sure wasn't the way it ended up, us losing 3 games. Okay, so North Dakota lost by 2 points to Campbell. But anyways, still, they ended up being the
clear-cut best team in the little tournament.
Surprise team here. But still, it seemed like the same game 3 times in a lot of ways. The whole season so far, we kind of struggle on the start. It's like, where is our offense for the first 10 minutes? And then we get it going, and the second half's a little better sometimes. But this tournament, it was us kind of starting off a little bit better. I wouldn't call it hot because it's not like we were 20 points in 10 minutes. It was...
it just seemed fluid.
Right, a little bit more fluid. Good defense, but we'd overcome their good defense, and we'd be winning by somewhere between 5, 10, 15 points. But then toward the end of the first half in all these games, we'd just go in those spurts where it looks like we don't know what we're doing for too long, and then they take the upper hand, and then the second half looks just abysmal.
I'd say North Dakota's first half and tonight's first half were almost identical.
Mm-hmm.
We were up by 10, maybe 12 against Georgia Southern tonight in the first half, and then playing North Dakota, we were up by about 15. We're taking good shots, the offense is moving, playing good defense, and it all of a sudden the last few minutes, 2 minutes of the first half, it's like the switch is off, and I don't know, it's like miscommunication comes in.
Like a different team.
And we never recovered from that last few minutes of the first half, and then going to the second half is just a totally new team, and I don't know if it's, North Dakota outplaying us, being more aggressive. Michael Fly tonight talked about Georgia Southern winning on the aggressiveness, and while that may be true, I think it's, I don't know. There seems to be a lot of miscommunication and on our end.
Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes it looks like, when you play a certain way in one half and then a different way, it goes horribly wrong in the second half. The obvious thing to kind of wonder is, what did the other team do differently? What did they see in us where they took advantage of it and we couldn't capitalize? But Coach Fly today at the presser, commented on how it's the same thing they were really doing in the first half. Georgia Southern, that is, with the press, and we were just beating it in the first half, not beating it in the second. So, a little confusing there just on how something like that can happen.
The thing that's interesting is usually when a team has one really bad half and one really good half, it's the opposite. You come out flat.
Sometimes, but I mean, it's
and then you pick it up in the second half. We've been doing the opposite. We come out, looking good, got a significant lead. A 10-point, 15-point lead at halftime is something you should not be squandering the rest of that game.
Yeah, I mean, whether we play well in the first half, play well in the second half, bottom line is we haven't played two good halves. Whether against Florida Tech, against anybody, we haven't played two good halves.
Nope. Yeah, it seems like Alico Arena didn't really help us much as far as home court advantage goes, but again, it's Thanksgiving break and all the students were gone, and that shouldn't really be that much of a factor either. That's like what you say when it's a close game and you win. Oh, the fans
must have been the
fans pulled this one out for us, But it's I don't even know, like it's just hard to watch.
Yeah, it is, and
because you get so hopeful.
You do, because you see those
You watch
spurts.
the first half, and when you're up by 10, 12, 15, you're like, man, maybe we're turning the corner. And
you
then
get tricked into getting excited again, and then sure enough, sure as the wind, the second half comes, and you, again, those 10-plus minute spurts or half-long spurts where it just, it looks like the guys have never played together sometimes.
Well, I'm going to ask you something, Russ. I want to know your thought. Do you think the active point, the one spot, whoever's bringing the ball up the court, whether it be Jalen Warren, Jalen Harper, sometimes Caleb Cato, are they running the offense or calling the plays, or do you think it's called from the sidelines from the coaches or Michael Fly himself? Do you happen to know? Because it seems like there's so much miscommunication sometimes on the plays we're running. Like, we'll see Dakota come up for a screen, and it's a half-ass screen. Maybe that's intentional, but then no one seems to get open or get any space. And then it's like, Dakota, where are you going? I thought you were supposed to do this. You know what I mean? It's
right. I mean, I think generally is
there even specific plays in college, or is it just...
Yeah. Well, I mean, you'll see people, tap the top of their head or do something with their hands.
Yeah, but does that just mean, hey, wings... come screen, I'm going to take one? I mean, is it like...
I think generally in any level of basketball, you're playing basketball as your play. Now there are circumstances and situations, whether it's on an inbound or, okay, right here, I'm the point guard, I'm Jalen Warren, or I'm Coach Fly, and I call in to whoever has the ball and say, you notice something that they're doing, or they changed the way they're playing defense, and you say, hey, this particular play or movement or anything that we have might give us an advantage. But to the appearing like there's not communication or not knowing what to do, I mean, yeah, it's hard to pinpoint why, as we're not in the practices and everything, and where the miscommunication is taking place, because sometimes it's even hard to pinpoint like who did the wrong thing, who's supposed to be in a particular spot or what exactly they're supposed to do. But yeah, I mean, it does get rough sometimes when people... In basketball, you got to spread out, on offense. You got to not have two guys standing in the same spot. And a lot of times there will be two guys, standing in the corner. There's not a lot of room.
It's clustered up.
Right. So, sometimes those things will happen, and it's just, it's frustrating for sure.
Yeah, because it seemed like there was at least a handful of plays, and more so in the Campbell game, where we had to throw up a shot because the shot clock was on 2 or 1, and we could not get past the 3-point line. And and maybe that's due to the pressing. Yeah,
that's half.
Or the
deep pressing, you mean? No, that's half to do with the press that they're playing, because it seems like sometimes we'll just pick the ball up.
Or is it the 1-3-1 they're playing? I don't know if it was
1-2-2. A lot of times they're playing, yeah. But yeah, it takes us so long to get past half court sometimes when they press, and that by the time we get past half court, there's close to 15 seconds on the shot clock, and then we're trying to do our little 3-man weave looking rotation of the guards.
And really, by the time the clock hits 7, 6, you gotta like be in motion or be throwing up a shot.
And then you see a bunch of players do ISO and hero looking ball, which I'm not saying hero ball in the context that I have to take over this game myself, but in the...
You're forced to put up a shot.
Right, I have 5 seconds, and I'm not sure I can make a pass because I'm not sure the guy's going to be where I think he's going to be, and I need to take this shot. And that's definitely contributing to the really poor shooting percentage that we keep having. I mean, from 3 today, 8 for 29. Sadly, that's better than against Campbell, and we were 3 for 25. But, specifically for this game against Georgia Southern, Caleb Cato had actually a fairly efficient game. 7 points, 4 assists, 2 steals. But he shot 1 for 8 from 3, 3 of 13 from the floor. And that's entirely because of the point you brought up, though. It's, in the end, especially, it was him having the ball and, just having to force up a shot with 3 left on the shot clock or less.
Yeah, no, Campbell was nothing to write home about. I think that was our worst shooting game of the year. We shot 20. It was nearly 22%.
Yep.
21.
Like 12% from 3.
The other surprising thing, coming off a fresh injury, Malik Hardy almost had the most minutes for us tonight, and he was still pretty productive. 3 for 7, had 9 points and 4 rebounds.
Yeah,
and
you got
just really good at defensive and like everyone's been saying, his physicality and that energy he brings to the team.
He's very Kyle Lowry.
See, I see Kawhi Leonard.
I can't say that just because of the height. The position's a little different, but playing more of a guard style, just because Lowry's undersized, but he gets his nose in there.
He's a dog.
Yeah, he's a bulldog is what he is. He's a little pit bull. So that's what I see a lot of in Malik Hardy. I compared him to Zach Johnson-esque earlier, and that was just because of, we've seen him in 4 games now, and he's already probably our best physical drive to the rim, use my body to create separation player, and which is something we've been lacking for a while, this year at least. So yeah, Malik's been pretty good. 5 turnovers today, which is something you don't want to have, but I can, at least for him, somewhat contribute that to, again, it's his 4th game this season. He's still trying to learn how to play with everybody.
Apparently his injury's not, 100%
right.
healed.
It's a hip thing, I guess.
Right. And talking about injuries, now we got Tracy Hector on the sideline with, is it a knee or is it?
It looks like a knee. He's got a new brace on. And yeah, he got banged up in the first game of the tournament against North Dakota. We honestly, with how ugly that game got, it ended up being a near 20-point loss. With how ugly that game got, we had several players go down from like non-contact kind of injuries, which are kind of scary. Dakota Rivers was holding his knee pretty hard.
Jalen Warren went down.
Yeah, his ankle looked kind of banged up. Tracy Hector, a lot of players. And
even, I forget what game it was, but Rainwater came away with a bloody nose or a scratch on his face.
That's like every game. He dives for everything.
That's true. He's always hitting the ground.
Always hitting the pavement. But he took a lot of abuse this tournament too, and this has probably been his best stretch of play for us in his short career with us so far. Tonight, 8 points, 10 rebounds. And
yeah, he's been nearing double-double.
Right,
for
pretty much the whole tournament.
Yeah.
And he's looked good defensively, and he's consistently matched up against the other team's best big. And that's also with him getting a lot of minutes. He got near 30 minutes tonight. And, 3 games back-to-back with him getting that kind of minutes. He could definitely use tomorrow off. Sit down, relax, get your body right, and, come back for FIU.
Right, so kind of recapping this whole tournament, if you count the Florida Tech game, which was technically part of this tournament.
It's a win, so I'll count that anytime.
Yeah, it wasn't the best win, but it's a win. We, got our feet wet and got going. The 3 other games, North Dakota, it was a great first half. Tonight, Georgia Southern, great first half, and then we can't get that second half or going, and it's like, what is prohibiting the momentum? I don't know what it is, and I guess we got to stay tuned to figure it out. But
right.
Campbell was just a bad all-around shooting performance on both teams, really. It was just kind of a defensive, grinded-out game.
Slugfest.
Still kind of hard to watch. It's weird this year. Like, a lot of college basketball games have been in that 40, 50-point range, and that's never, at least what I remember.
It's very Virginia a couple of years ago when they ended up losing to UMBC. That was them every single game. Everybody scores 50-some points.
And the other thing that I'd like to touch on is How much do you think this new 3-point line has had an effect? Because they've been calling a lot of plays on the side. Is that the sideline?
Yeah, I guess.
Sideline.
Not the baseline.
Where you catch the ball and oops, my toe's hitting the line.
That is 100%
right.
The biggest effect that the 3-point line has had. It's not. I mean, you can also argue that our shooting
it's
percentage
different.
is down, and that might. I think that's more correlation than causation, though, because I mean we're still like there are spurts where we shoot very well. It's just kind of we already went over. It's bad shots and forcing shots is kind of, in my opinion, the catalyst for the low percentage, but. Yeah, just the sheer, because it's not just our team either. It seems like it's every team.
We've seen probably at least 2, maybe 3 of those turnovers a game.
They catch the ball in the corner, like where you normally hit a 3 and kind of plant their foot to drive around somebody, and then you hear a quick whistle and it's turnover, other team's ball. It's come on, man. But that seems to be the biggest effect so far.
So obviously, this team that we have now, we're led by 2 sophomores and Caleb Cato and Zach Scott. I mean, we got a couple junior transfers. This is a dumb question. Do we have seniors? Like, who's our senior?
Only Tracy Hector.
Okay, that's
again,
what I thought.
first year with the team and hurt.
Yeah. So, my question is, our valid excuse is we have a young team. The guys have only played a handful of D1 games together, let alone in general. At what point can that excuse not be used anymore? Like at what point in this season, or does it take a whole year?
I think the point where you can't use that, not that anybody's making excuses, but the point that you can't use that as an excuse.
Well, it's a valid excuse because you're inexperienced.
You can use that, that remains true, I should say, until it isn't true. Until
a year.
Right. I mean, not to throw a year away like this year, because I still hope
2 years
and
even.
maybe think that this team can be competitive later in the year, but it's...
I don't know, without pulling it up, but on Georgia Southern, there was at least, the starting 5 at least was like majority juniors, seniors, I think.
Right. And when we get into FIU here, we'll get into some of that too. But that's all the teams that we've seen in this tournament, and most of the teams this year is juniors and seniors, because that's college basketball. At least in mid-major conferences.
Well, of course you're going to play your juniors and seniors to put the best possible team that you have.
Because you're trying to win.
And in our case, we don't have any of those cards to play. So
right, and even our juniors and senior, not plural, are JUCO transfers who need time to learn the speed of the game and all the other cliches, which again are all our excuses, but also true. It's a matter of time, which is kind of the hardest thing, because you can't speed that up. You just have to sit here and wait and hope that we see progress, hope that something clicks.
Well, yeah, that's what Michael Fly's been saying for the past 3-4 games, probably every game, but are they making improvements every game?
Yeah.
From our perspective, it's hard to see it in the last 3 games.
Yeah, it's.
I know it's different from a coach's perspective and from a team perspective, but when you keep turning it over the way they've been turning it over and the offense is not flowing and clicking and scoring the way it should be, it's hard to say they're making improvements. I think individual players have made improvements, but because there hasn't been a second half and there hasn't been one complete game, I wouldn't say the team has improved a whole lot. There's just been small facets of it that have.
Right. No, you're exactly right. It's like you said, it's hard to see the improvement sometimes as in a fan perspective or a media perspective. But it's there when you look under the surface. You're right that individual players have gotten better, but in a way that also kind of wanes and waxes too. With a guy like Dakota Rivers, he didn't have the best tournament. But you saw what he did against Florida Tech. You saw what he did in the few games before that. So his season might be a bit up and down. He might have a couple stretches where, it looks like regression. But for a guy that young and for a team this young, there really isn't regression to me, because there's value in poor performance.
It's going to be up and down, up and down, up and down until it
goes
up and
consistently
stays up.
Trending upward. But yeah, there's value in failure as well. It's not fun and it's not as easy to see, but you have to learn how to lose as well as learn how to win, because you have to. It makes you better in the long run. But us being so short-handed with the forwards as well. Mm-hmm. A guy like Coach Fly has said, Dakota and Quanzi Samuels are guys that were supposed to play 5 to 8 minutes a night, and because Brian Thomas is out, they're Dakota.
Malik was out.
Right, Malik
and now
was out.
Tracy's out.
Tracy's out, and he's been a semi-consistent, big per se for us, and without him now, it's literally only Justice Rainwater, Dakota Rivers as 5s, and Quanzi Samuels as a 4.
And Quanzi didn't even play tonight.
No, we're playing small ball to somewhat good effect, in our half that we're effective. But against other teams that have bigger guys, I don't know how that's going to work out, because Rainwater, like I said earlier, he's playing almost 30 minutes a night at this point.
So then moving forward, Russell, it's kind of a little personal thought and opinion. What do you see that needs to change moving forward to try and get it? I mean, is it we're doing what we're doing, or is there something glaring at you that you would like to see changed?
That's hard to answer, and it's hard to answer because the things that I want to change aren't changeable. I want Brian Thomas to be back in 100%. I want to see this, 2 to 3 years in the making player that, we've been somewhat excited about for a while. Very good on defense, good at rebounding, things that we've sometimes struggled with, with our bigs recently. And, but that's not something that can change until it's ready to change. I want to see our players communicate better. I want to see cohesion on the court and all of that. But again, it can't just happen. All these things are time. It's time until Brian Thomas can get healthy. It's time until Malik, Zach, Caleb, Sam, all those guys, Jalen Harper, Jalen Warren, can get more in sync. It's just time. So, it's tough to say that more of the same, because I don't want to see more of the same, but they just need more time.
Yeah, I'd probably agree with those same sentiments. I don't know how to coach. I'm not a coach, but I don't know how to coach like turnovers.
You don't?
No,
I don't either.
No, I mean, like, how do you like teach that besides like don't
right? No, because that's vision and IQ, and I'm not saying any player is bad with IQ. By themselves, but it's a matter of communication. So it's playing with each other, learning the guy's tendencies, and it doesn't happen overnight, that's for sure. But it looks like we're ready to play these teams. It doesn't look like we come in and, oh my God, they threw us this thing we couldn't handle. Well, it does, but it doesn't look like they weren't prepared, at least in the beginning, to deal with what they were thrown.
Do you think? I mean, you'd say that we're like depth-wise we're short. I mean, like.
Yeah, definitely.
So I've noticed the players look gassed, especially in the second half, because we've been playing well in the first half the last 4 games. Second half, it's like I see guys leaning over, hands on their hips, not hustling back on defense after a turnover. I think that's one of our bigger problems too, is we're not physically.
Well, I think that I don't think it's a conditioning thing. I think it's the situation has called for certain players to play a lot and play really hard, because we haven't been winning by 20. We've been fighting to get back a lead, or we've been fighting to maintain our small lead. So it's like you can't sub the guys out who are playing well for you. The guys who are in a rhythm, you got to keep them in, and then they're gassed, and then you try to sub them out, but then, who knows if the guy coming in is going to be on that game. And I think that's especially true for Justice Rainwater. I keep harping on the fact that he's playing so much and doing fairly well, in this stretch. But again, it's when you don't really have much to sub him with, then you can't take him out.
I got an interesting question. Do you see Caleb Cato and or Zach Scott as the appropriate leader?
Right now, yeah. And I guess going forward, yeah, because they're always going to be, even now, they're always going to be kind of the seniors on the team, even though they're sophomores. There's guys older than them, even the juniors on the team, but as far as experience playing together and at this level.
I guess that's really your only choice.
Yeah, it is.
But like I'm thinking in a sense where, Brandon Goodwin a couple years back, he came over as a junior.
Yeah.
And he was the immediate leader.
Yeah.
Even though he had never played with us, he was like, okay, he's the dude.
That was, with
I
Brandon.
mean, he was even more of a leader than Zach Johnson, as Zach Johnson was here from day one.
Right. Yeah, with
Not
Brandon,
knocking Zach Johnson,
with Brandon,
but it was just...
point guard's a natural leading position, and he has that like alpha leader mentality in him.
But that's what I'm asking. I don't know if I see that. I mean, I don't hang out with Zach Scott or Caleb Catto in the locker room, but I don't know if I see that in them. Right.
It's hard to see a clear on-court leader right now, for sure. At times, again, I don't know if it's because it's the natural leading position. A point guard's the quarterback of basketball, So sometimes Jalen Warren looks like he's that on-court guy when he's in there. I think I could make somewhat of a case for Caleb Catto for having seen that with him, because if there's any guy on the court at all times that looks like he knows where everyone's supposed to be, where he's supposed to be, and who to pass it to, it's him.
Yeah, like if I'm putting the ball in the hands of a player to make a last shot, it's gonna be either Caleb Catto or Zach Scott. Unless it's a three, then I'll give it to Gagliardi. But if it's any other big play
to make the big pass he's probably the guy I'd want to inbound the pass too, just because he'd be able to find that guy. Yeah, exactly. Just to make the smart play, the smart clutch play.
It's just something to keep watching as the season goes on.
See if anybody grows into that role even more.
So a tough at-home tournament for the Eagles. If you include Florida Tech, they went 1-3. But obviously the most concerning is losing 3 straight to D1 schools.
Winnable games too.
Right. So moving on, next game is against FIU over in Miami at their campus.
The notorious FIU Golden Panthers.
December 4th at 7 p.m. Russell, do you have any... How's this team looking? I know they're 5-3.
Yep, 5-3. They don't have any they haven't played any D1 powerhouses or anything, but they're still winning their games, at least 5 of them. They've played Mississippi State, North Carolina State, Eastern Kentucky, which they did win against. They have some good wins,
and they've always been tough to play.
Right.
It's like FAU, like we were talking previously. These guys always put up a fight.
Right, and as a guy who's always been on the west coast of Florida, give me FAU, give me FIU, and that's the same team. It's the same team. Yeah, it's all Miami.
Well, it's just a vowel difference.
Right. It's just a couple stops down the vowel line. But
now you were saying these guys are completely stacked with upperclassmen.
So yeah,
go through that list.
Let me just here. I'm on FIU's men's basketball roster page right now, and just reading. They sort it by number. So first guy junior, second guy junior, third guy redshirt junior, next guy senior, next guy junior. So
and you could go on.
Right.
There's a
couple of sophomores, a freshman, and then some more juniors and another senior. Yeah, it looks like there are 3 seniors on the team and then just a lot of juniors.
And apparently they like to press the whole game.
Right.
Or something of that nature. So we're gonna
another thing Coach Fly said in the press conference, which you can check out on YouTube, is that they anticipated playing FIU this season by scheduling their game against VCU, who FIU's coach is from that VCU program in the past, and so he brings a lot of the same style. They press all damn game, and that's something that we want to do as a program, but just aren't ready with the amount of depth and
bodies,
right.
lack of bodies.
Exactly right now. So they're kind of they're not playing the exact game that we want to play, but at least defensively, they're playing in a way that we're trying to get to, but just not there yet. But they have good size. They have a couple of 6'9" guys. Like I said, tons of upperclassmen. And as far as players go, they have a guard who averages 18 points a game. He started all 8 of their games this year, so that's something to watch out for. It's Devon Andrews or Devin Andrews. I don't know his name. And then they have a pretty sizable big. Let me go for this pronunciation real quick. Osasumwen Osage. Yeah, we'll go with that. But he's at 13 points a game and 9 rebounds a game. So that's something that we got to deal with. He's 6'9", 250 pounds. You know who else was 6'9", 250? Our boy Antrevious Simmons.
Brian Thomas is around there too.
He looks a little leaner now. 6'9", 230 or something like that.
A little more shredded beef.
A little more shredded beef. But yeah, I mean, they have some good talent on that roster, and lots of upperclassmen, lots of guys flirting with 10 points a game. 4 of their guys have made every start this year, so they have a consistent starting lineup, and it's going to be a tough one.
So what's the obvious thing, keys to the game that we have to do? I mean, it sounds to me like 1, turnovers, and someone go unscrew the lid off the basket and just make shots. And that
right, everything's kind of connected, and I think it's got to start with those turnovers because and maybe it starts somewhere even before then. Maybe it starts with beating the other team's press when they trap us, just knowing where that guy is, not making lazy, slow, floating passes.
Well, that's the other thing that was so weird to me, and not to backtrack, but tonight when Georgia Southern was pressing and our players were trying to get across half court, it seems like they took one step and stopped when they had a bunch of room to keep going. And like you said earlier, that then we finally get the ball in our offense and there's 10 seconds left.
Right.
So I don't understand why they were stopping, picking up the ball, looking to pass.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that's something they're supposed to be doing, and there's, find the open guy.
You're supposed to stop and pick up when you have to.
Right.
But it appeared they had a bunch of room to keep driving, and it was just bugging me that we weren't getting it across half court in a timely fashion.
It was bugging everybody, man.
Yeah, I know. I don't know if that's how it's supposed to be played out or not.
Yeah, I don't know either. And again, I'm hoping that something changes there and that we play the press a little bit better, or you just match it with a press of our own, get them, hot and bothered and unable physically to keep doing that all game. Maybe that's the antidote to it. Fight fire with fire and get them tired. I know we're short-bodied, but we sort of, with Malik back, we also kind of have, I wouldn't say depth at guards, with our guards. We have another guy, though. Gagliardi plays pretty good man-to-man D, pretty good on-ball D. And, Harper, he's another guy. Warren's another guy. Zach and Caleb. Zach he can come up with any amount of steals in any game. He's sneaky. The other team just doesn't know where he is, and he sneaks in, and all of a sudden the ball's in his hands. So we have the bodies there, and then Malik, like I said, to maybe wear them out like that.
I guess my concern is I haven't seen that clear-cut player other than flashes of Malik that can drive to the hoop consistently. Yeah. And then we're forced to sit on the perimeter or deep two and take a shot. Yeah. Or, hope for a fast break bucket. But
right, which aren't coming at all. But I mean, it's always going to be true that at any moment, we can see shades of and glimpses and of us running the offense like we're supposed to be running it, of getting those steals, turning it into fast break transition points, and just get a few in a row, just beat the other team up, tear the confidence away from them and hit our shots because we're confident. And that could come against a team like FIU. This isn't like an unwinnable game. This isn't a definite loss. It's in any way. It's just because of these last 3 games and teams pressing us and us not responding to it well. It doesn't seem like it's not an obvious win, obviously, at this point either.
All of our games minus a few that were obviously we're supposed to lose.
St. Louis, VCU.
Yeah. They were all winnable.
Right, and they still are.
They're all still winnable. I forget where I was going with this.
Any given Sunday.
Just win, please. Yeah, come on.
Let's do it. Did anybody catch David Moulton just flipping his lid on the dunk that poor Mr. Rainwater had to suffer through?
Yeah, Mr. J. Rain got a little rain splattered on him.
Right, a little bit.
Baptized.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to tip your hat or whatever the hell you're wearing on your head to that guy. I mean, that was that's probably going to be number one.
It was probably, I hate even saying it, but it's true. It was probably the most vicious poster that I've seen in person.
At Alico.
Yeah. From about 10 feet away from me.
And that's considering Rajon Tucker's dunks, Troy Baxter Jr.'s dunks.
Yep.
It was up there. It was
Well, Poster in particular, though, like
Right.
over another guy.
yeah.
Yeah.
That was rough. Silver line is we're on ESPN. So,
Yeah, a little bit of exposure there.
Yeah, final thoughts. I think we just need to sugar the fucking bigs. I mean, what the
What kind of sugar? Powdered, confection?
powdered shush.
Powdered shush the f***ing bigs.
Okay, Trump.
Powdered sugar the bigs. J-Web.
We should have a segment where we call it "What Would Trump Do?" and
You're fired.
and Trump is the coach of FGCU basketball. Trump.
Give a lot of credit to a team like Campbell and Georgia Southern. They're tremendous players. They're coached well. They make tremendous trade deals with China. We don't have any Chinese players, and that's good. We have to make FGCU great again. Let's go Eagles, man. I want to win. I'm praying to the basketball gods.
I kind of wish college basketball worked like if we just started tanking, we could get like a really cool.
A good recruit.
Yeah,
Get a
recruit.
5-star if we like lose out.
We get like a free card for a 5-star or
Right.
something.
Right.
I wish that's how that worked.
I don't. But
Well, no, I
also-
don't want to see us tank,
Right.
but give me a 5-star. I'll take a bad year if we get.
What was it? The Magic like 3 years ago were like, in the next 10 years we're gonna win an NBA championship. Like the 10-year plan, seriously. But yeah, that also isn't gonna happen.
All right, guys, that about wraps things up. Like I said, we got FIU coming up December 4th, Wednesday, 7 o'clock, their place. Any Dirty Birds traveling over there, give us a shout. We probably won't go because, work and things, but I love to go. We'll definitely be tuning in on TV. And then hopefully be back in a week or so and recap some of the next couple games and looking for improvements.
Yeah, back at the Nest on Saturday against Robert Morris. Pack the Nest, Dirty Birds.
Father Bob coming to
Father
town.
Bob, I'll have to talk to him. Tell him to simmer down.
Yeah. But yeah, guys, thanks for tuning in. Go. Hey, Russell, you really need to be the new Go Eagles. That was pretty good.
Go Eagles.
Yeah. But Russell's.
Go Eagles!
Oh, no. Do your opera.
Go Eagles!
There we go. If we don't get hired, as our continue doing media, at least Russell can do that.
Right.
Belch that out.
Go Eagles!
Belch, I think I meant to say belt.
Yeah, belch is when you burp.
Go Eagles!
Thanks, guys. Go Eagles.
I feel like I'm on my morning jog hearing your voice because I enjoy the podcast. Appreciate what you do.